Hello, everybody. Welcome back to DeathGroundReviews. This is Alan Huntsman. I've got with me Rami Ungar.
What's up? This is Rami Younger. We're from Columbus, Ohio, tuning in. How are you guys?
And today's movie, it is Jacob's Ladder. So this came out in 1990, and it was directed by Adrian Lin, written by Bruce Joel Rubin. It's starring Tim Robbins, Elizabeth Pena, and Danny Aiello.
So it follows a Vietnam War veteran named Jacob, who years after leaving Vietnam starts to experience some really weird shit in his life, including seeing a bunch of faceless ghosts and monsters as he tries to figure out what the heck's going on. And it leads him on a journey that is both terrifying and spiritual. It's less of a horror film and more of a drama horror film, though.
Oh, so true. And I think what helps with that is you got Tim Robbins. He produces such a emotional depth to
Yeah,
the
he does a
film.
great job as Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption.
Oh yeah, one of the
So I
best
was
films
not
ever.
surprised by his performance here.
Right. So here's an interesting quote. This comes from the author of the screenplay for Jacob's Ladder, Bruce Joel Rubin. So he says, the horror of the movie would be in the revelation that hope is hell's final torment, that life is a dream that ends over and over with the final truth, that life was never real, that we are all creatures trapped in eternal suffering and damnation. So keep in mind, so Joel Rubin, he had a Jewish upbringing. He spent 2 years in a Tibetan Buddhist monastery in Nepal, and he spent a lot of time just meditating. I think 2 years worth of meditating. He says the inspiration for the film was a sense of his entire spiritual upbringing. Once you have a meditative life, you start to see that the world is really far different than what it appears to be.
That's deep.
Oh yeah, we're sinking in.
So, what did you think of the film, first
I,
off?
I I can give you an unloading of. I've had other experiences with this film. So when I first saw this movie, I was 15 years old, and I took everything in an extremely literal. So, I was seeing it as just, man, this guy's got entities from some hell, some other dimension, monsters, ghosts, whatever they may be. And they're ripping through the canvas of his life and they're trying to pull him into this other strange dimension. That's the way I saw it. And you know what? A lot of the film, it has illogical leaps. There's times it's very confusing.
Mm.
And now, years later that I've watched it, I see it now as sort of this chaotic fever dream. He's on the edge of death, and and
Based on the ending, that's
the,
kind of how I see it too.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's this. He's on the edge of death, and his brain is reacting to that, creating just this wild fever dream.
Yeah, and you could see it as sort of like you did say that the writer spent time in a Buddhist monastery. In some
Yep.
Buddhist traditions, you do have to go through some hell after death in order to purge yourself of your attachments and move on to whatever is next, Nirvana or something, which is something we kind of see in the film. Like he's going through a sort of spiritual journey, a sort of spiritual hell in order to find heaven. And you could also interpret it as like a fever dream, chemicals in his brain releasing uh final visions before he shovels off this mortal coil. And for those listening, the film's over 30 years old at this point, so no spoiler warning is in effect. It By the end of the film, it shows that he's basically been hallucinating the whole thing, and he's dying in a hospital still in Vietnam. Um, but really, it's kind of, was he preparing himself to go to heaven? Was he just having a fever dream? That's a question. Unfortunately for me, this was my first time watching the film and I just did not enjoy it.
Really? Was it just
Yeah,
too confusing and chaotic for you?
I just felt like it was too dull and boring. Felt like very little was happening. And when stuff did happen, I just was it just did not feel like the stakes were high enough. Or that it was going to be anything interesting. Yeah, it was from a symbolic point of view, it's pretty interesting. But I came in thinking it was going to be a straight up horror movie with PTSD commentary. So I was severely disappointed. I mean, maybe part of that is that I was misinformed, but I just did not get. I did not enjoy what I got. Though there were a couple of things I did enjoy.
Oh, okay. What were those?
I thought that first scene where they are under attack in Vietnam, and some of them are like having bad reactions to the drug, the ladder. That was
Yes.
very interesting.
So I did enjoy some of the camera shots on that, where the camera's spinning and the
Mm.
shaking going on, the convulsing. Yeah, that was pretty creepy stuff going on there.
Another moment I really liked was Esme Epatha Merkerson was in there as the fortune teller on the stairs, the one who did the palm reading.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm a big Law and Order fan, so I was just like, it's Lieutenant Van Buren. I did that. I had that same reaction in the last time I watched Terminator 2 because she plays the computer scientist's wife. I was just
Oh, that's right. I
yeah,
didn't make
so
that connection when I was watching it, but you're so right. Shit.
yeah, so whenever I see her in something now, I gotta be like, Lieutenant Van Buren, oh, we love you. She was a mainstay of the show. And the third thing was, do you remember during that party scene when the lights are flashing, it looks like Jacob's girlfriend is doing the tango with a monster demon thing out of a John
Alien movie,
Carpenter.
it almost looked like to me. It had that alien
Yes.
quality.
I was watching that. I was laughing so hard because I was like, hey, so that's where that weird Japanese fetish comes from. Because in anime and manga, there's this whole joke about tentacle porn. So I just was like, oh, so that's where that comes from.
I haven't explored much of the Japanese manga, so I don't know. But
If you ever want recommendations, give me a call. It was a joke made it with love of of the medium. But yeah, I was like, oh my god, it's anime tentacles.
no, I for me, I enjoyed like seeing the little foreshadowings moments. Like, when he gets all those pictures from his childhood and he's weeping over the death of his son, but then later his girlfriend takes it all and throws it in the incinerator.
Man,
That was a little foreshadow to what his whole experience was going to be. Those little, like with the palm reader, when she noticed the line on his hand that said, "Oh, you're dead." Those little things stood out to me, and I enjoyed it. Those little crumbs of and clues. I get a kick out of that.
that was interesting. You know, when he goes into the hospital to get operated on, you could kind of consider that into that point as his full descent into hell.
Oh yeah,
He, yeah, it was. I mean, just the imagery there, it was kind of. Even I found that part kind of creepy
oh
because,
yeah.
as like above him, there are all sorts of people just running around, women and babies,
There's
men, and
bloody limbs piled everywhere.
if
I mean,
that's not, that's pro, that's probably a very an interpretation of some area of Dante's Inferno.
yep.
Oh, and then when the when the chiropractor comes and pulls him out, oh, and gives him that whole speech, it's like he the start of his ascent to heaven. And so in a way, Jacob was kind of like a Dante, he from the divine in comedy. He's going through a descent of hell through purgatory and into heaven in order to cleanse himself of his sin and be reborn.
You are spot on, Rami, actually. So there's a description here. It says the film's title refers to the biblical story of Jacob's ladder, or the dream of a meeting place between heaven and earth. Its little known alternative title is Dante's Inferno, in a reference to Inferno by Dante Alighieri. So yeah, that was definitely
Get out of town.
yeah, that was definitely on the writer's mind when he was writing this.
I'll speak. I forgot to mention the dead son was played by Macaulay Culkin. I recognized him.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was interesting. I was like, hey, it's the kid from Home Alone. He's playing a ghost.
Yeah. This brings to my mind, though, Rami, your reaction to the film. It's similar to some critics' reactions. Many of them were just so kind of overwhelmed by it. You seem to be with boredom, you said. Others seem to be overwhelmed with just like dejected feelings. They were just so sad. Like one critic said during the scene where he's being wheeled around in the hospital and there's the bloodied limbs everywhere. She's like, I don't even care whether this is a hallucination or not. Just get me out of this scene. Just get me out of the movie. What's interesting too is during test screenings of this film, there was material that was so overwhelming for the audience, they had to remove it. So I don't know if there's a director's cut anywhere out there that includes all those other scenes, but part of me is kind of curious about them.
There are a bunch of other films where they've done that. I mean, Event Horizon had some footage that was considered too extreme for theater goers, so they took it out. But then that stuff got included in like director's cuts or I'm not sure if there actually is a director's cut of her Event Horizon now that I think about it, but I do know that some of those images are out there and it freaks people out just looking because it looks really hellish. Like you see people hanging upside down, they're covered in barbed wire. There's all these things attacking them that look like part weapon and part biological monster, and it's just really creepy.
The overall verdict for Rami did not like this film, although kind of interested in some of the thematic and symbolism. Huh?
I think if they wanted to, they could have done a full horror film that kind of goes into that idea of finding heaven and letting go of your earthly attachments. But this just was not made for me. This was made for I think more for the people who go to Oscar or nominated films just because it's considered holy culture.
And see, I enjoyed it. I loved all the little symbolism and little hints at things. And I loved Tim Robbins' performance. I thought it was powerfully acted and written. So this time, Rami, we disagree, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll disagree in the future.
That's right. And let us know, folks, in the comments section what you guys think of this film. Are you planning on checking it out? If you have seen it, let us know your thoughts.
And did you see the remake, which everyone tells me is awful, so I'm avoiding it?
Oh yeah, 2010, there was a remake, wasn't there?
Yes, and I'm not going to watch it because everyone tells me that no matter what my thoughts on the original is, the remake is, well, let's just say I can't say it on TV, but we're on YouTube, so you mind if I get really vulgar?
We got enough of an idea of what you mean, so we'll just hold off.
All right.
We probably won't watch the remake, although it could be a very funny episode discussing it, though, as terrible as it sounds. But
I think if we were to watch it and then discuss it, we'd have to do it drunk.
no drinking for me, so yeah, we probably won't watch it.
Too bad.
But anyway, guys, yeah, this is DeathGroundReviews, and we'll catch you next time.
And remember, at the time we're recording this, there's only 41 days till Halloween. Pleasant nightmares, kids.